Sanders. I disagree, Ms. Sue, nice to see you. I can actually disagree with Senator Sanders. And as much as I think of Ms. Sue, as highly as I think of Ms. Sue, and as pleasantly as I regard you, I will disagree with Senator Sanders and can say with a straight face that I do not think that you should be Secretary of Labor. The committee's priority should be, and put differently, and to use Senator Sanders' words, we need a labor secretary who is fair and unbiased when enforcing the nation's labor laws, who should be a leader who is responsible, experienced, and skilled, not an activist, with a demonstrated record of competence as an administrator and a demonstrated record of successfully concluding labor negotiations. But there are, as Senator Sanders points out, serious concerns about Ms. Sue's record. As Secretary of California Labor and Workforce Development Agency, Ms. Sue was the chief enforcer of AB 5, controversial law that dismantled the gig economy such as Uber, DoorDash, Lyft, and removed the flexibility of these individuals to work as an independent contractor. Senator Sanders suggests that all workers would be united in supporting this nomination. Those independent contractors opposed AB 5. Ms. Sue expressed herself as merely being an enforcer of a law passed down by others, but I've spoken to people in California that said Ms. Sue was quite the cheerleader for the law. Now, to be clear, independent contractors, freelancers, make their own hours and choose the type of work they wish to do. They're shielded from forced or coerced unionization that would strip that flexibility away. This has made eliminating freelancing a top priority for large labor unions, those that are endorsing this nomination, who want more workers paying forced union dues. It's important to know, even in California, AB 5 is unpopular. The governor and state legislature had to pass over 100 exemptions after it was implemented. In fact, the statutory exemptions are longer than the text of AB 5 itself. 59% of Californians voted to further erode the law, which naturally labor unions challenged in court. In 2019, Ms. Sue described employers who opposed California's overreaching law as not understanding the economy that, quote, her quote, we want in California. As acting and Deputy Secretary of Labor, Ms. Sue is overseeing the Biden's administration push to eliminate independent contracting via federal executive rulemaking to the detriment of workers. If finalized, the new regulation would strip 21 million individuals of their ability to be independent contractors, enjoying the flexibility this provides. A law rejected in California is not a policy that should be spread across the nation. I also wish to hear Ms. Sue's position on the Department of Labor's effort to uproot the franchise model. She had said privately that she will not pursue this, but the franchise model employs over 8 million Americans. She has made public comments in support of a new joint employer rule, which would impact the almost 800,000 franchises operating in our communities. Saddling franchisors with liability for thousands of franchise owners that operate as small businesses would be a sure way to destroy the system of franchising. A model which has empowered underrepresented groups in the business community, such as women and people of color, giving them the opportunity to live the American dream, becoming successful small business owners, creating jobs, and lifting other workers out of poverty. No one is surprised that the joint employer rule is a major priority for large labor unions. It's easier to pressure one company to unionize to increase union dues than to pressure thousands of independent businesses. President Biden promises to have the most pro-union administration in history. At her nomination announcement, Ms. Sue responded saying, quote, sign me up for that. I want to help. The priority should not be whatever it makes it easier to forcibly and coercively unionize workers while undermining the business model that employs them. Now, as a Republican, I don't expect to agree with the political positions of a Biden nominee, but we should expect that the heads of our federal government are not driven by activism to carry out an agenda for a favored political group. We need leaders who will responsibly carry out the duties of the office and give all comers a fair shake. It is also the responsibility of the Secretary to be a good administrator. As Secretary of the California Labor and Workforce Development Agency, as Senator Sanders points out, Ms. Sue oversaw the Employment Development Department, the EDD, the state's unemployment program. This program lost over $30 billion in fraud by waiving fact-checking requirements recommended by Department of Labor guidance. The California State Auditor reported, quote, despite repeated warnings, EDD did not bolster its fraud detection efforts until months into the pandemic, and it suspended a critical safeguard. Under Ms. Sue, fraud in California was rampant. Rapper Nuke Bizzle was arrested, pled guilty, and ordered to pay $705,000 in restitution after posting a music video bragging about how easy it was to defraud the EDD program. The lyrics include, quote, I done got rich off of EDD. Ain't hit no more licks 'cause of EDD. Just last night I was selling peas, and I just woke up to 300 G's. For the record, my interpretation is 300 G's is $300,000, but he was ordered to pay over 700 G's back in restitution. The rapper was not held accountable because of Ms. Sue's oversight, but because he publicly admitted to his crime on a rap video. I ask unanimous consent to insert a transcript of Nuke Bizzle's music video entitled EDD into the record.
You're into rap, we're going to put it into the record.
This mismanagement does not inspire confidence that Ms. Sue can run a multi-billion-dollar organization. Now, by the way, former Labor Secretary Marty Walsh developed trust with the business community as well as labor unions. Setting his politics aside, Marty Walsh had significant experience in negotiations and managing organizations. That experience is important. But now with 150 labor contracts expiring this year, the potential of replacing him with someone who has a history of bias and no direct experience handling labor disputes should be concerning to all. I look forward to hearing from Ms. Sue as she addresses these concerns of the committee. With that, I yield.
Thank